Liar, you're lying to mommy again. The child's cries pierced like needles. Marcus, wincing in discomfort, shoved her roughly. Leah stumbled, and the back of her head hit the nightstand with a thud. She burst into tears from the pain. Isabella shifted her shopping bag to her left hand. The plastic handle had dug into her palm until it turned red. As she fumbled for her keys in her canvas bag, her fingertips brushed the crayon Leah had tucked inside that morning, the one with a lopsided sunflower drawing. Now, the crayon pressed against her fingertips through the fabric. Raindrops slid down the ends of her hair, and her soaked wool coat weighed heavily on her shoulders. Inside the supermarket plastic bag, Leah's favorite strawberry yogurt cartons bumped gently with each step, next to a discounted pack of chicken breasts. She pulled out her phone and lit up the screen. A balance alert from her banking app popped up. This month's budget was over again. Isabella. The familiar voice made her spine stiffen. When she turned around, her keychain clattered to the ground. Marcus stood under a street lamp 3 meters away, his dark gray suit glistening with rain. His once fluffy blonde hair clung to his scalp, revealing new strands of white at his temples. The dark circles under his eyes looked gray in the warm yellow light. When his leather shoes stepped into a puddle, the splashing water soaked the cuffs of his trousers. "What are you doing here?" She bent down to pick up the keys, her nails scraping against the floor tiles with a harsh sound. By accident, her fingertips brushed the mud in the puddle. Marcus took a step forward, his Adam's apple bobbing. "I've calculated it. Your salary as a kindergarten teacher isn't nearly enough to raise Leah." He pulled a folded paper from his suit's inner pocket. When he unfolded it, the edges blurred from the rain. €2,000 a month, as long as you have dinner with me twice a week. The shopping bag's handle dug deeper into her palm, and the corner of a strawberry yogurt carton pressed against her, sharp and painful. "Have you lost your mind?" She heard her own voice trembling. 3 years ago, you said you couldn't stand diapers and mortgage payments. You grabbed your suitcase and left faster than anyone. Now you're using money to buy your ex-wife." Marcus wiped the rain from his face, his fingertips smudging the concealer under his eyes, making his dark circles even more obvious. "Christina broke up with me last month. That's when I realized." He reached out, as if to touch her shoulder, but she stepped back to avoid him. "Only you've always understood me. Get away." Isabella stumbled back and hit the iron gate. The cold metal seeped through her shirt and into her back. Leah's crayon drawing was still stuck to the gate. The sunflower petals had been soaked by the rain, their color fading to a pale yellow. Warm light suddenly flickered on in the second-floor window. Leah's small face pressed against the glass, her nose flattened. "Mommy." The child's voice drifted down on the night wind, still groggy from just waking up. Marcus's eyes lit up. He quickly held up his damp briefcase. "Leah, look what Daddy brought you. The new Lego set." "Shut up." Isabella positioned her body to block his view. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Leah, go back to your room and count to 100. When you're done, Mommy will come up to heat your yogurt." The rain grew heavier. The scent of Marcus's cologne mixed with the smell of rain drifted over, just as strong as the day they divorced, when he stood at the Civil Affairs Bureau entrance. He lowered his voice, his fingertips gripping the gate's bars. "The court granted me visitation rights. You can't keep me from seeing her forever. Why didn't you mention visitation rights when you stood her up last Saturday?" Isabella finally found her key. The metal teeth clicked into the lock with a soft sound. "Leah held the old doll you bought her and waited all night. She cried until midnight and asked me, 'Does Daddy not want her anymore?'" Marcus suddenly grabbed the doorframe, his knuckles whitening. "I had to meet a client at the last minute. It was work-related." His voice softened, even taking on a pleading tone. "Every night, after work, I'm in that empty apartment. I can't even cook pasta right. I burn it every time." Isabella stared at the loose thread on his suit cuff. 3 years ago, this Armani suit had cost €2,000 when it was new. Now, not only were the cuffs frayed, but one of the cufflinks was missing. She suddenly wanted to laugh, but no smile came. "So you need a free babysitter and someone to cook your pasta on the side?" "Family," Marcus insisted. He pulled a checkbook from his inner pocket. The ink from his fountain pen had blurred at the edges. "I'll pay 3 months in advance." "Look." The security chain rattled. Isabella threw the shopping bag at his chest. A strawberry yogurt carton burst open, and pink liquid splattered across the front of his suit, like a flower blooming suddenly. "Save it for your intern's bag," she said, watching his stunned face. Her voice was as cold as the rain. "I heard she just upgraded from Coach to Hermes recently." Marcus froze in place. The sound of rain filled the silence between them. It wasn't until Leah's cries echoed from upstairs that he panicked. He reached out to wipe the yogurt off his suit, but only made the stain worse. "At least let me see my daughter." Isabella slammed the door shut. Through the peephole, she watched Marcus stand in the rain for 10 minutes. Finally, he bent down to pick up the strawberry yogurt carton that had rolled to the drain and stuffed it into his briefcase. In the kitchen, Leah was standing on her tiptoes, reaching for the candy jar on top of the fridge. A small patch of her pajama collar was wet, from leaning against the window and crying earlier. "Where's Daddy?" She had her thumb in her mouth, her little finger pointing toward the door. Isabella knelt down and caught the smell of milk in her daughter's hair. Daddy had something urgent to do. He'll come back another time. She fastened the buttons on Leah's pajamas, then suddenly paused. The bottom button was coming loose, hanging by a thread. Last week, Marcus had promised over the phone that he'd come to sew it back on for Leah on the weekend. But once again, he'd stood her up. Her fingers clutched the plastic button. The loose thread pricked her fingertip, just like all the promises Marcus had never kept. "Daddy will bring a needle and thread next time," she said, telling a lie she didn't even believe. Leah's eyelashes fluttered, still damp with unshed tears. When the doorbell rang on Wednesday evening, Isabella was washing Leah's socks. She opened the door to find Marcus, dressed in a crisp suit with his hair neatly combed. He held 2 Lego boxes in his hand, as if he were on his way to a dinner party. "A birthday present for Leah," he said, shaking the boxes. A strange perfume scent drifted from his cuff. Not his usual cologne, nor the floral fragrance Christina used to wear. "I missed her birthday last week, so this is to make up for it." Leah screamed and threw herself at him, her little shoes slipping on the floor. She clung to the Lego boxes and refused to let go. "Thank you, Daddy. There's a parent-child event at the amusement park on Sunday." Marcus knelt down to tie Leah's loose shoelace. He was so clumsy that sweat broke out on his forehead. "I bought 3 tickets. Let's go together." Isabella stood at the kitchen door, holding a dish sponge. Foam oozed between her fingers. Last week's utility bill reminder was still tucked under the fridge magnet. The red word, overdue, stared sharply at her. She watched Marcus's ingratiating smile, then suddenly remembered how determined he'd been during the divorce, saying, "I'm keeping this TV." Something felt stuck in her chest. Amid the music of the carousel, Marcus's hand holding the cotton candy suddenly froze. "Why do you look so pale?" He reached out, as if to wipe Isabella's face, but she turned her head to avoid him. Leah bit into the cotton candy, and crumbs fell onto Marcus's suit trousers. "I'm fine," Isabella said, clutching a tissue in her pocket. Her stomach churned. Earlier on the roller coaster, she felt the urge to retch twice, but the screams from the ride had drowned it out. Marcus wouldn't drop the subject, his gaze fixed on the dark circles under her eyes. "Haven't you been sleeping well? Is Leah keeping you up at night?" "No," Isabella said, turning toward the restroom. The pregnancy test in her pocket pressed against her thigh. She'd bought it at the pharmacy that morning. The 2 red lines were so clear, they made her heart race. Isabella felt for her phone under the pillow. A bank alert popped up on the lock screen. "Unusual login attempt on your account at 10 o'clock today in Zurich." Login failed. She looked up at Marcus. He was bending down to read a picture book to Leah, a smile on his lips, but his eyes drifted toward the door like a teased sunset. The incubator's alarm suddenly went off. Marcus pushed past the nurses and rushed forward. His shoe stepped on the oxygen tube. He only stepped back in a panic after the nurse scolded him. Isabella watched his hunched figure in front of the glass window. Suddenly, she remembered the day Leah was born. He'd been at Paris Fashion Week and hadn't even called. The doctor said the critical period is over, Marcus said when he came back, his eyes bright. His tie hung loosely around his neck. His phone vibrated in his pocket. He was a split second too slow to turn it off, and Isabella saw the caller ID. Bank of Switzerland manager Jean. Late at night, in the ward, only the beeping of the monitor could be heard. Marcus curled up in the visitor's chair, his suit jacket draped over Leah. Isabella quietly picked up his phone from the coffee table. She still remembered his password, Leah's birthday. He hadn't changed it all these years. After unlocking it, she opened the draft folder of text messages. The top draft read, "Can the house transfer documents be ready by Thursday? I need money urgently. The client is pressing me." The recipient was a number saved as Agent Wong, dated last Wednesday, the same day he'd taken Leah to the amusement park for the first time. The phone suddenly vibrated, waking Marcus. He jumped up to grab it, but his briefcase fell off the chair. A pile of debt collection notices spilled onto the floor. The top one was marked Urgent Collection, with an amount of 50,000 euros. The sender was a Swiss bank. Isabella picked up the debt notice, folded it into a paper airplane, and threw it out the window. The paper airplane fluttered in the night wind a few times before landing in the flower bed below. Marcus suddenly knelt down, pressing his forehead against the hospital bed's railing. That's all in the past. Now, I just want to be a good father and a good husband. The baby in the incubator moved, waving its tiny hands in the air. Moonlight streamed through the window and fell on the new white hairs on Marcus's head, like a sprinkle of salt. Isabella counted the frequency of his eyelid twitches. Every time he lied, he blinked especially fast. And right now, he was blinking fast. "Mommy!" Leah suddenly burst through the door, the rabbit doll's ear dragging on the floor. Her little face was bright red. and she clutched a piece of paper in her hand. Daddy was on the phone with an uncle just now. He said when the house becomes yours. No, becomes his, he'll take us to Switzerland. Marcus jumped to his feet. His briefcase knocked over the water cup on the nightstand. Water spilled onto the debt notices, blurring the words. Baby, you misheard, he said, kneeling down to touch Leah's hair. A folded paper peeked out of his cuff. It was a transfer receipt from a Swiss bank, which read, Transfer sent, 100,000 euros. Note, down payment for house. Daddy was talking to the agent about renovating our current house, so your little sister will have a comfortable room. Leah stepped back, clutching her doll tightly. I didn't mishear. You also said after the little sister is born, you'll make mommy transfer the house to you. Her voice suddenly caught, and tears hit the floor tiles. Are you going to lie to us again? Isabella's fingers dug into the sheets. The incubator's alarm shrilled. Marcus turned to check on the baby, but stepped on the debt notice and stumbled. The baby's scared, he said with a forced laugh, reaching out to wipe Leah's tears. The wedding ring on his ring finger pressed against the child's cheek. Isabella stared at the tan lines on his fingers. They were from the time he'd gone to the beach with Christina after their divorce. He'd posted photos on social media back then, but later deleted them. The nurse rushed in to adjust the monitor. Marcus took the opportunity to kick his briefcase under the bed. The metal clasp hit the iron frame with a crisp sound. Isabella watched his little movements, suddenly feeling tired. Ever since he'd left 3 years ago, and now that he'd come back lying, she'd been stuck dealing with his lies. Is Daddy going to take the little sister away? Leah grabbed the hem of Isabella's hospital gown. The plastic bracelet on her wrist pressed against the webbing between the child's thumb and index finger. Isabella smelled the perfume on her hair. It was the same scent from Marcus's cuff, which he'd rubbed off on her when he'd hugged her that morning that Marcus's hand suddenly covered hers. His palm was unpleasantly damp. How could I? He said. Daddy loves you both the most. His phone vibrated in his pocket. Through the fabric, the screen lit up clearly. 3 characters, Christina. Isabella pried his fingers off hers. Her nails left 4 white marks on the back of his hand, which quickly turned red. Leah, go to the nurse's station and ask for a strawberry lollipop, okay? Tell them mommy sent you. As soon as Leah's footsteps faded down the hallway, Marcus knelt down and reached under the bed for his briefcase. The back of his suit was covered in dust. Let me explain. Those were all things from the past. I've cut ties with Christina completely. Isabella picked up his checkbook from a nightstand. The latest page had her name written on it, but the amount line was empty. Last week, you transferred 5,000 euros to Christina, she said. Her voice was so calm it scared her. The note said breakup fee, didn't it? Marcus's pupils contracted. She was pregnant. No, I mean she asked me for compensation. I was afraid she'd come here and cause a scene, disturbing you guys. He suddenly grabbed the incubator stand, his knuckles turning white. Look how much our daughter looks like you. Her eyes are gray-blue, just like yours. The monitor beeped regularly. Isabella counted the speed of the forged drip, remembering the property appraisal report she'd received last month. The agent had said the house could now be sold for 300,000 euros, just enough to pay off Marcus's debts. Marcus's hand was quietly moving toward her phone on the nightstand. The screen was still on the banking app page. Is the password still Leah's birthday? He forced a smile. When his fingertip touched the screen, the unlock sound was especially loud in the night. Isabella watched his thumb glide over the transfer button. His movements were so smooth, it was like he'd practiced many times. He probably wanted to transfer the few thousand euros left in her account. Car headlights suddenly flashed outside the window. Marcus froze. A new message popped up on the phone screen from Christina. The paternity test results are in. Confirmed no biological relationship. You have to pay me back the money you owe me soon, or I'll go to the police and report you for embezzlement. That's not. Marcus's Adam's apple bobbed. His tie clip came loose and fell to the floor with a crisp sound. Isabella reached out to press the call button by the bed. Wanted to ask the nurse for help, but he grabbed her wrist tightly. The baby in the incubator suddenly cried, softly, but it made Marcus let go of her, as if he'd been burned. Isabella took the chance to reach under the bed for the briefcase. The stuck zipper made Marcus pounce forward. Don't touch it. His knee hit the edge of the bed, making him frown in pain. The briefcase's zipper came undone, and a stack of documents spilled out. The top one was a house transfer agreement, with his signature already on it. Her signature line was still empty. Isabella picked up a crumpled note. It was covered in Marcus's messy handwriting. Once I get the house down payment, take C to Switzerland. Leave the kids with Isabella. She's too soft-hearted. She'll definitely take good care of them. The date was last Wednesday, the day he'd taken Leah to the amusement park for the first time. You used our daughter to trick me into signing. Her nails dug into her palm, drawing blood. Marcus suddenly started taking off his watch. The strap slipped between his trembling fingers. It was a Patek Philippe, which he'd bought before their divorce. Back then, He'd said he'd pass it down to his son. But now, he didn't even care about his daughters. I can get 20,000 euros by pawning this, he said, shoving the watch at her. The watch face had a fresh scratch. As long as we can hold the bank off for now, I could pay back the money. Then we could be a family again, properly. Leah's footsteps echoed in the hallway. Marcus quickly wiped his eyes, not noticing that Isabella had seen him glance toward the emergency exit. He probably planned to run away before Leah came back. Strawberry flavor. Leah rushed in, holding the lollipop high. Then she stopped suddenly. Her eyes darted between the documents on the floor and Marcus's red eyes, confusion written all over her little face. Marcus forced an exaggerated smile. Daddy got dust in his eyes. It hurts a little. He reached out to hug Leah, but a photo fell from his suit's inner pocket. It was Christina holding a baby, standing by Lake Geneva. The snow-capped mountains in the background were clear, and the date in the bottom right corner was yesterday. Leah bent down to pick it up. Her little finger poked the necklace around Christina's neck in the photo. This aunt's necklace is the same as the one Daddy gave you. Isabella's heart sank. The necklace had been a gift from Marcus last week. He'd said it was to make up for a missed wedding anniversary. But it turned out he'd given it to Christina instead. The incubator's alarm shrilled again. The nurse's footsteps approached from the hallway. Isabella watched Marcus rush toward the call button and suddenly remembered the last thing he'd said when he'd left 3 years ago. You'll never tell the difference between diamonds and glass, or between when I'm lying and when I'm not. Marcus's eyes flew open, probably realizing he couldn't run away. He lunged for the note in Isabella's hand. The briefcase's metal clasp was still caught between her fingers. He knocked over the force stand. The glucose bottle shattered on the floor, and glass shards splattered onto Leah's slippers. The child burst into tears. Let me explain. He grabbed Isabella's wrist. The debt notice crumpled in her fingers. The bank is freezing my account tomorrow. I had no choice but to do this. Isabella smelled the alcohol on his breath. Last night, he'd said he was meeting a client. He'd probably gone to see Christina instead. Leah's rabbit doll was under his foot. Cotton leaked from his torn ear. He'd stepped on it when he'd pounced. So you used Leah? Used our unborn daughter? Her voice was soft, but it made Marcus let go of her as if he'd been burned. His phone kept vibrating. The screen lit up. Manager Zhang. Final warning. Pay back the money tomorrow, or we call the police. Marcus suddenly tore off his tie, revealing a hickey on his collarbone. Christina had bitten him. It was just as fresh as the scratch marks on his neck. That bitch Christina lied to me. She said she was pregnant, so I gave her money. Pink cotton was stuck under his nails. The remains of the cotton candy from the amusement park, the same as the crumbs under Leah's nails. The nurse rushed in, frowning as she adjusted the monitor. Family members, please keep quiet. You're disturbing the patient and the baby. Marcus immediately put on a worried expression, bowing and nodding at the nurse. I'm sorry. I was just too anxious. But behind his back, he tore the photo of Christina into pieces. The fragments fell to the floor and were crushed under his leather shoes until they were unrecognizable. After the nurse left, Marcus knelt down again and grabbed the hem of Isabella's pants. If we mortgage the house, we can pay off the debt. We can still live here. I'll work hard. I'll give you a good life. His tears hit the hospital bed's railing with a dull thud. For the kid's sake, give me one more chance. Leah suddenly rushed over and bit Marcus's arm. Liar. You're lying to mommy again. Marcus yelped in pain and shoved her roughly. Leah stumbled, and the back of her head hit the nightstand. She cried out in agony. Marcus's first reaction wasn't to help her, but to pick up the Rolex watch he'd thrown. He'd gotten it back from Christina, probably planning to sell it for money. I didn't mean to. Marcus's hand hovered in the air. He looked at Isabella's cold eyes and didn't dare move. The baby's cries mixed with Leah's, making him look even more disheveled. A stub from an amusement park ticket fell from his suit's inner pocket. The date was the day Isabella had fainted during her prenatal checkup. He'd said he was in a work meeting, but he'd actually taken Christina to the amusement park. Isabella pressed the call button by the bed. No hesitation this time. When you took Leah on the carousel, were you already in contact with the agent to sell the house? Her nails dug into her palm. Where the red mark from the ring he'd used to propose last week still remained, the Marcus's expression twisted. Do you think being a single mother is easy? Without me, how will you raise 2 kids? How will you pay the mortgage? He tore open the briefcase's inner pocket, and the checkbook fluttered out. I'm giving you money, giving you a house. What more do you want? The monitor's hum suddenly grew sharp. Isabella looked at Marcus's ferocious face, remembering what he'd said when he'd thrown a baby bottle 3 years ago. I'm sick of this life. Every day is just diapers and mortgages. Can't you have any ambition? Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. 2 police officers appeared at the door. Marcus's face turned deathly pale. He quickly straightened his tie and forced a smile at the officers. It's a misunderstanding, just a family dispute. We've already sorted it out. Isabella held out her phone. The screen played the recording she'd just made. Marcus's voice, clearly admitting to embezzlement and trying to trick her out of the house, was loud and clear. He didn't just lie to me. He's also suspected of embezzling funds, she said, her voice steady. Just now, he tried to grab my phone to stop me from calling the police. Marcus lunged for the phone, but the officers held his shoulders down. Stay still, the officer said sharply. Someone reported you for embezzlement. Come with us. Isabella, you'll regret this. The officers dragged Marcus out. His leather shoes scraped against the floor with a harsh sound. You can't raise 2 kids alone. You'll come begging me to come back. Leah's tears soaked a large patch of Isabella's hospital gown. She clung tightly to Isabella's waist. Mommy, is Daddy never coming back? Isabella stroked her hair and watched Marcus's back as he was led out of the ward. A sudden sense of relief washed over her. The struggles and lies were finally over. The baby in the incubator stopped crying, and the monitor's beeping returned to a steady rhythm that a dull thud came from the end of the hallway. The sound of a police car door closing. The nurse pushed a medicine cart in, and the rubber wheels rolled over the crushed amusement park ticket on the floor. Do you need a sedative? You look pale. Isabella shook her head and pulled Leah closer. The scent of Marcus's perfume still lingered in the child's hair, mixing with the smell of ink from the debt notices. It made her feel a little nauseous. Leah suddenly broke free, knelt down, and picked up something shiny. It was Marcus's cufflink, silver with tiny C&K engraved on it. Daddy dropped this. She clutched the cufflink in her palm, the metal edge pressed until her palm turned red. Isabella remembered Marcus's birthday last year. He'd said the cufflink had been run over by a taxi and had asked her for 2,000 euros to buy a new one. Now it was clear, another lie. She pried open Leah's fingers and looked at the C&K, probably the initials of Christina and Marcus. The incubator's alarm went off again. Isabella stumbled toward it, the 4-tube swinging behind her. The glass reflected her pale face. She was wearing the same shade of lipstick she'd worn the night Marcus had proposed. She'd thrown that lipstick away a long time ago, just like she'd thrown away his lies. Your blood pressure is a little high. Try not to get upset, the nurse said, adjusting the 4-speed and handing her a glass of warm water. Drinking this will help. Isabella didn't take it. The glass still had the indentations of Marcus's teeth. He'd used it that morning to feed her water. She stared at the water's surface and remembered the vitamin Marcus had fed her that morning. Later, she found out it was diet pills Christina had been taking. He'd probably wanted to make her weak, so she'd sign the papers more easily. Leah was counting the glass shards on the floor. 1, 2, 3. She stopped at 7 and picked up a note stained with blood. It was the one Marcus had dropped earlier, covered in his messy handwriting. Get the money, then dump that old bag. Take C to Switzerland for a good life. Isabella took the note, crumpled it up, and threw it in the trash. She didn't want to see anything related to Marcus anymore, or remember his lies. The baby monitor beeped steadily. Isabella counted the rhythm, which matched the frequency of Marcus's fake breathing the night before. He'd probably been lying awake, thinking about how to trick her into signing, not actually sleeping. Leah fished the crumpled note out of the trash and stuffed it into the rabbit doll's belly. Using the thread Marcus had never sewn with, she stitched it up clumsily, just like she tried to stitch the loose button. The rain stopped, and the sound of dripping water from the windowsill faded. Isabella felt for her phone under the pillow. Her photo album still had the picture of Marcus kneeling to propose, taken 3 years ago. Back then, he'd held the ring and smiled sincerely. She zoomed in and saw the faint mark of a couple's ring on his ring finger. She hadn't noticed it at the time, tricked by his sweet words. Mommy. Leah lay on her lap, still smelling of strawberry yogurt. The nurse had given it to her earlier. Will Daddy bring more Lego? Isabella looked at the crushed Lego box on the floor. The first page of the instruction manual had a red circle around recommended age, 8+. Leah was only 5. He'd probably just bought it randomly, not even noticing the age recommendation. No, she said, stroking Leah's hair. Her voice was soft. But Mommy will buy you new ones, princess ones, just like you like. Footsteps came from the hallway. A social worker stood at the door, holding a file bag and smiling warmly. Hello, I'm a social worker from the community. I heard you've been having some difficulties. I wanted to ask if you need any help. Isabella instinctively touched her abdomen. The incision still ached faintly. This was where Marcus's fingertips had once lingered, just as cold as the touch of his pen when he'd signed checks. Thank you, she nodded. I need legal aid. And I might need help finding a temporary nanny. It's a little hard for me to take care of 2 kids alone. Leah suddenly ran to the window and pointed downstairs. Daddy's car. Isabella followed her finger. The only car parked below was a police car, its back seat empty. She counted the number of times the police car's windshield wipers swung. 3 times the same number of red lights Marcus had run the day before. The baby in the incubator yawned and waved its little hands, as if reaching for something. Isabella remembered what Marcus had said the day before. Her eyes look like yours. She'll be a beautiful little girl when she grows up. Back then, his phone screen had still been on the Swiss bank's transfer page. He'd probably been calculating how much money he'd get from selling the house. The social worker placed a file bag on a nightstand and took out several forms. These are the legal aid application forms and a list of recommended nannies. Take a look. If you don't understand anything, just ask me. Isabella looked at the signature line on the forms. The dotted line was exactly the same as the one on Marcus's checkbook. She picked up a pen. As she hovered it over the paper, the incubator's alarm beeped again. The nurse had said this was normal, just the baby moving. When the pen touched the paper, the ink spread into a blue teardrop shape, like the tears she'd secretly shed the night before. Leah crawled out from under the bed. The plastic bracelet on her wrist was covered in dust. "Mommy, are you crying?" Her cold little hand touched Isabella's cheek, wiping away the tear at the corner of her eye. Isabella didn't realize she'd been crying until then. The salty liquid seeped into her mouth, tasting the same as the chicken soup Marcus had fed her the day before. The soup had been cold. He'd probably bought it from outside and given it to her without heating it up. "Mommy's not crying." Isabella wiped her tears and took the tissue the social worker handed her. "Thank you. I appreciate your help." The social worker shook her head and handed her a bottle of folic acid tablets. "The nurse said you need to take folic acid. These are provided for free by the community. Please take them." Leah was counting the glass shards again. She suddenly picked up a debt notice soaked in blood. The amount was covered by the blood, but the last digits, 50,000 euros, were still visible. "Daddy owes a lot of money," she said, looking up at Isabella with a confused little face. "Will we become poor?" Isabella picked her up and set her on her lap. "No," she said. "Mommy will work hard. We'll be okay." She looked at her baby daughter in the incubator, then at Leah in her arms. A sudden strength welled up inside her. Even without Marcus, she could take good care of both her children. She'd never again be trapped by lies. Sunlight streamed through the window and fell on the incubator, glistening. The baby waved her little hands in the light. The curve of her knuckles was exactly like the curve of Marcus's fingers when he'd signed checks. But her eyes were gray-blue, just like Isabella's, clean and clear, without a single trace of lies. Isabella held Leah's hand and signed her name on the legal aid application form. The sound of the pen scratching against paper mixed with the monitor's beeping, like the melody of a new beginning. One for her and her two daughters, a beginning without lies.